healthcare providers and specifically nurses have retired at a rate greater than the ability for the educational system to produce more nurses. And the shortage of nurses, and certainly there's complex labor issues involved in that, but the competition for nurses between the hospital systems is very high. And anytime there's a shortage of nurses, the throughput of patients through the hospital slows. And over the course of 2022, particularly late 22 and into early 23, the pace of the pace the hospital could move patients through the hospital slowed to the extent that it started to affect the rate at which fire and EMS could drop patients in the emergency department, producing unexpected and historically lengthy wait times to let the transfer process occur. And so we've actually been working with the hospital on this since probably Q3 of 2022. 2022. We have a weekly and now bi-weekly meeting with hospital leadership to specifically go over the data that's in front of you today, to review it, to talk about processes inside the hospital, many of which are outside of the control of fire and EMS, but we work very hard to be good partners with them and to do the things we can to support them in the interest of being able to throughput patients through the hospital. And the hospital's taken a variety of steps. Most of them revolve around adding staff, nursing staff at the hospital. But there's many other things that are a part of the effort to reduce wait times and improve throughput. And there's the data that we can go through here shortly demonstrates that the peak pain period was December, January, February of last year into this year, and that they have improved significantly, but they still sit at approximately twice normal, what we would consider historic normal over the prior 4 years on average for transfer time inside the emergency department. So that's sort of the synopsis of where we've been and how we got to where we are today. And I guess just for your awareness and for the community's awareness, we do watch this very closely. We measure it every day, and we measure it on every unit that transfers an Everett resident to the emergency department, whether it's Providence or otherwise, and then report that back to them on their performance. So I'm happy to take you through the slides or however you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, actually, would anyone like to have any, the committee members have any comments at this point before we go over the graphs? And Chief, thanks for that comments. Many of us in the community have probably heard the stories of going to the ER. Of course, it's a very impactful time in someone's life, and then they go to the ER and they sit in the hallway or the ER room, and certainly has a pretty big impact on our community. Also, some of my concerns is if our service providers, our medics and firefighters are at the hospital and basically on timeout because they're waiting to transfer the patient, it's taking away their ability to respond to other emergencies. So I realize that there's a lot of complicated and even regional problems that, or I should say things that affect this. So I'm really thankful for the mayor and the chief for being on this, and we want to continue to monitor it. So thank you. So if you could go ahead and show us your graphs and talk about your presentation for today.
Sure. So this is just a repeat of graphs that were presented the first time that we talked at this committee. The page 2 graph is the historical look back month to month since 2019. And in very, very simple terms, obviously late 22 and into 23, as you start to see more and more red appear at the tops of the bar charts, those are waits in excess of 60 minutes, which are very unusual historically, and generally what is creating all the pain inside the EMS system. On page 3, it's the exact same data, just a closer look at the last 3 rolling months through the 18th of this month. And as you can see, it's improved. It's improved over the worst, but as I said, we're still seeing occasions where there are waits in excess of 60 minutes. But for example, in the month of May, if you look close at the grid below, the number of instances, so while there is a fair amount of red on this chart, you have to be careful in how you interpret the data. The number of instances where there were actually over 60 minutes transfer time is a total of 4. for the month of May. So it is not an overwhelming number, it is just an inconvenient number. It creates pain in the moment, but the overall impact on available resources is spread out over a lot more than just the unit that is stuck there. Next page is both volume of transports to the hospital, that's the blue bars on the bottom, and then the average transfer of care time. And as you can see, the average transfer of care time climbed near the end of 22 to just over 30 minutes, which when you spread that out across the histogram, there's a lot of painful experiences in that and waits in that time, and that the hospital has continually improved over the course of 23, but not yet returned to what we would consider historic normal. And then lastly, specifically for Everett and Everett Fire Department units, those are the wait times per transport unit. And for those that don't know, we have two types of transport units. We have aid cars, which are basic life support transport units. That's two EMTs that take less critical patients to the hospital, and they are the lines in sort of orange there. And then we have paramedic units, which carry two paramedics with advanced life support capability, and they are the blue lines. And as you might expect, the less critical patients, the transfer time takes a little bit longer, and the more critical patients, the hospital is able to perform a little bit better. But also, we're seeing measurable improvement in both transport types, and that's the sum of the data that I have for you today.
Thank you for that, Chief. Anyone else any comments or any thoughts?
Thank you for bringing the data and watching this so closely. Really appreciate it. And as long as we can see that trend going down, I think that's a good sign. And just keep us informed. Updates would be great.
One other comment I'd like to acknowledge really is our care providers. I know this is indicative to our nurses and emergency responders. This is a demonstration of their workload. Obviously, our nurses at the hospital do not want patients to be there for a long period of time before they get all the treatment they need. Although I don't think anyone's being denied, it just takes a long time to get through the process. So I just want to recognize both the nurses at the hospital and our medics and firefighters. They're all dealing with this and doing the best they can. So thanks. So thank you, Dick. Okay, well, next on our agenda is the buffer zone implementation update. So I really appreciate this. Thank you, Judy.
I think that it was established that the Safe Communities Committee would be a good place to kind of work through the process and kind of get this organized. And so I just have a very brief update for you as well. That the staff is currently in the process of drafting that standard operating procedures based on the ordinance that was passed. And so kind of diving through what you've directed us to do in that ordinance and making it more operational. In addition to that, we are developing a new type of outreach permit that we would be able to use more citywide so that we just have a better understanding of those agencies or organizations or groups that want to do distribution of services and goods, that we have a better understanding of their plans, where they want to do it, how long they want to do it, what their plans are for trash pickup, and all of the things that might come along with any type of event. And in a parallel process, we are currently in the process of gathering data around a couple different sites in the city that staff believe we want to bring forward to the mayor with a recommendation. So that process is taking place right now, where we're getting the data, the calls for service, the calls from concerned residents, the number of calls. I don't know that we'll be able to track the number of emails and calls that the council's got, but that too could be a data set that we'll look at. Once we have that done, if the mayor, agrees to that, then the council will obviously be notified, depending on timing, either through this committee, either through the digest, either through, a briefing or administrative update at the council meeting. The maps will be created, provided, announced, put on the website and such. And until we have a new permit, the right-of-way use permit is the permit that we would be moving forward. If it takes us a little longer to get kind of the outreach permit, a new permit created. The current no-sit, no-lie area uses that right-of-way use permit, so that's the permit that we would continue to move forward if any organization wanted, if a buffer zone was established and we needed a permit, we would use the right-of-way use permit. The ordinance, was written that it can be the right-of-way use permit or other permit. So the other permit is the one that hasn't been created yet. So that is my update for today.
Can I just add that we've had one or two residents reach out and say, okay, where are your buffer zones and are they going to impact my neighborhood? They're making assumptions that we already have buffer zones in place. So if people ask you, we haven't initiated any new buffer zones. As soon as we do, not only will the community around the buffer zone and the organization that is impacted be notified, but you will also be notified. So if somebody reaches out to you, you'll kind of be able to know whether they're in the near a buffer zone or not. So I know I've gotten a couple of those questions and I've been able to say, oh, there's nothing in place yet. We'll keep you posted.
Thank you for that. Any questions?
You said you might be collecting the data of the incidents and have something able to present or provide to us. Was there anything about what's going on with the data collection? Is that going to be used for anything to see where the majority of the incidents are happening or anything that council will be able to look at?
The data would be collected for the mayor's, the recommendation that staff would bring to the mayor. The council doesn't have that legislative act. You aren't making a decision on that. That's the mayor's authority within the ordinance. So,
But we can provide you the data if you'd like it.
Yeah, I was just looking for kind of so we see which of those areas that you're targeting and that would help with kind of, realizing the impact. And then also, quick question on, was it thoroughly explained on when that data collection actually starts? Was it at the time the passage of the ordinance when those numbers of incidents are going to rack up? Or are you?
the 6 month is the timeline. So we can look back over the course of the last 6 months to determine if it would be eligible.
Okay, so it's in hindsight, looking previously. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the permit. So will that be for any disbursement of food or anything throughout the whole city, or is that just designated for the buffer zones?
So prior to the buffer zone being brought forward, staff had already been wanting to work on creating some type of permit or some kind of understanding so that we know who is doing what in our city. Oftentimes we get asked, what is being done for everybody? And there's a lot of organizations, a lot of ad hoc groups, a lot of advocacy groups that are doing, really good things helping the community, but we can't support them. We can't share the information because if we don't know that it's happening. And in the past, all we've had is a right-of-way use permit that typically is used more for a business that, an appliance store that wants to roll out their barbecues and do a sale, or they're going to have a spring sale and they want to put a table out. So they get a right-of-way use permit that's usually connected to kind of a brick or mortar to their location. So as we've over the course of the last 3-4 years, we have more and more organizations that aren't necessarily connected to a nonprofit or connected to a brick and mortar. And so we're trying to ask them to let us know what they're doing. The idea would be it's not to prohibit it, not to, to charge for it, but just to be in partnership with us so that we understand what their goals are. And then to ensure, again, that the trash is picked up, that there's plans for comings and goings and the other things that sometimes their events might draw on public right-of-way. So it just gives us an opportunity to be a little bit more engaged with them.
Okay, so you said that you're seeing that there wouldn't be a fee associated with this, and just a simple one page to fill out online.
Yeah, it's still being drafted, and so
Right.
we're looking at our kind of special event permit, we're looking at our right-of-way use permit, we're looking at our existing permits to see how they can be altered to just get us a little bit different data. And the idea that it will be a simple process for sure.
And then I know a lot of those other ones, you have to do them within so many days prior. And I would think some of these organizations might not be planning that far out. Have you guys figured out what kind of the timing might be that would be required of a permit?
I think that's exactly why it's taking us a little, it's going to take us a little bit of time to
Okay.
really dive into those nuances.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you
yeah.
guys that's part of the equation. So,
thank you.
great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I just wanted to be clear, the outreach permit is really for the whole city. That's the goal, whether there is a buffer zone or not, or a no sit, no lie ordinance. And then also, it could be as simple as one or two people that want to go out and hand out things, correct?
Yeah.
It could be an organization, it could be just somebody that wants to help out in the community.
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm sure you already have maybe some sort of idea how to get that information out, that those that want to help our community, we can continue to advertise that, say, hey, thank you for helping our residents, this is the process we'd like you to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are also going to continue to ask organizations or to ask people to understand the impacts of their giving. And to oftentimes, we encourage them to collaborate with nonprofits that do similar work and try and really be thoughtful so that you can really be mindful that you're helping the individuals, but you're also not having negative impacts on the residences, the city, the sidewalks, the parks, and the businesses. So that's really our goal.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions on this agenda item? Okay, thank you very much. One more, okay.
So we assume probably by next month, you'll come back with more of the information on this, or?
It might actually come out in a council digest. We might have all of these questions answered prior to next month's committee meeting.
Okay.
And so we might actually just update the full council
Full
on.
council, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be great.
exactly.
And we'll make sure the data, sort of the backup for that is part of that too, so so.
That's what I will use to make the decisions, and happy to provide it so that you understand why we've chosen where we've chosen, so.
I wanted to be faster than Dave.
We wouldn't let you. Thank you very much. That was pretty fast though, Chief, thank you. Good job, both of you. Okay, so our next item is the firearms and ammunition tax.
Yeah, and I think others at this table are probably free to leave if you want. Both because you don't have to be here and because you actually have somewhere to go.
Once again, thank you very much.
So it might have come up earlier, but in my brief time here, I know Council President Stonecipher had mentioned the firearms and ammunition tax after there was an event at the event center. So that's sort of what spurred getting this before your committee. This information was prepared by finance team. And then, and David Hall could undertake a bigger conversation around the legality of this, but I figured we have not a lot on the agenda tonight. It's a good chance to at least talk a little bit about kind of goals and maybe gather questions. I may not have all of the answers, but this is just the two ordinances that exist in the state. I don't know if there's others. I think it's just Seattle and Tacoma that have this, and they basically have done the same thing. The financial impact to the city, like the revenue impact, would be pretty small. We don't have a lot of facilities that sell firearms or ammunition, but there are some, and some one might not think of automatically, but certainly like pawn shops, and there is at least like one actual, I think, gun store, and Walmart, some others that might not sell firearms but do sell ammunition. So there's more than one would think at first glance, but it still is not a huge amount.
I have one question, if
yeah.
you don't mind. So the gun show that was here, I know it's somewhat, I hear they don't have to do some of the background checks at the gun shows when they sell guns. So would they have to also do the tax?
I think they would have to do, yeah, I mean, I think that's separate.
I know
yeah,
it's separate, but I
Yeah.
mean, the tax would apply to the gun show.
Yeah, that'd be my understanding.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
we can not have another one.
And I don't have anything on that piece of the issue, like
Okay.
the ability of those events to happen in the city, just kind of the tax part of it, so, but I know that was of interest too, so.
I just had one comment, or a couple comments. One is this isn't an unusual legislation. This is some of the other larger cities are doing.
Yeah,
And then I was wondering if in your research, if those cities segregated those dollars, those tax dollars, for specific purposes.
I don't know, but yeah,
So I would like us to consider that if we're going to do a special tax for ammo, that they go to gun safety or gun safety education.
well, we have the buyback program now, and I do know that they're planning to do it again, probably in June sometime, but they don't have a date yet. But that'd be a good, that's something we've done, that could be part of it, like
Yeah.
supporting more of those, or just classes and things like that. Yeah. Good. Anything? I guess after this, basically, I will just be like, hey, everybody that didn't want to talk about this, then I took the lead on. Now you guys have to put the effort in to draft the ordinance and bring it to council, like sort of when it's ready.
Or maybe back to the committee for, just for the discussion's sake.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Do you-
Yeah,
would that-
bring the ordinance to committee.
To
That
the
makes
committee
sense,
next round?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised Everett, or Seattle was 2016.
Yeah.
That's quite a long time ago. That's great.
Sounds good.
Are you familiar with the Snohomish County? Is this, or any other cities in Tacoma that have this?
I don't think so. I think it's just
Just the
these two.
larger cities?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We're not talking about a large cost to the purchaser, right?
No, I mean, I don't own a gun, but what I've seen, on the internet, they cost a lot more than $25. Like it might be $25 on $500, $1,000, so. I have no frame of reference for the ammunition piece of it, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Any other questions or comments? I look forward to more of your research. Thank you.
sounds good, yeah.
Any more comments or anything? Okay. Well, that concludes our
We
our
can
last
talk a little
agenda.
about next meeting if you want.
Yep, and then that's our last on our, so we have, you guys have your list, council members? Here,
Oh, here, there you go.
is there, you got an extra?
There's more.
So, we've had a couple of folks here come forward with, issues that deal with the noise and the nuisance. So I really would like to see those prioritized and deal with those as quickly as we can.
And you're talking about basically two sources too,
Yeah,
vehicles,
yes. And then that one,
and then
yeah,
the airport,
The
airport manufacturing, yeah,
noise, okay.
noise, yeah.
Is it those two?
Those are,
Or
I
the
mean,
noise part?
yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
And then, but I wonder if Dan Enersey was gonna get up there with the business, so, anyway. So I
And
don't know
find
if he can update us on,
on a follow-up on that
Yeah.
experience, yeah.
yeah, that'd be great.
One thing that one of the constituents had sent me was ordinances from, once again, Seattle and Tacoma and Bellevue, some of the other cities on noise from cars.
Yeah,
And if you could compare a little bit and see where we fit in.
I did, it's like, the mayor is aware of it, but I don't know if it's progressed very far, but our lobbyist, who I guess you guys are gonna see later tonight, mentioned that there's a pilot program for cities to do automated vehicle noise enforcement cameras in areas designated stay out of areas of racing. So Kirkland is the only city that signed up for that, like, last year.
Oh.
And so we're looking into that too.
I
so.
think that would be applicable. We
Yeah.
seem to have locations of racing,
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
in the southwest portion of the city.
In fact, I had a constituent send me that information
Oh.
on that,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, good.
So that'd be great if we can look into that.
Did the RCW get repealed, or was this just a workaround?
I think this was like a pilot program, kind of. Yeah, pilot program for cities to implement camera enforcement. Only warnings can be issued under the pilot, not citations, and then probably then that data might lead to a change in the RCW. There's funding available through the next biennium, so.
It sounds really good, actually, something that could apply to us. Okay, so, that was the noise ordinance. And then the ADA transitional plan briefing.
That's already scheduled.
That's right, June 28th, okay.
Yes.
And the police matrix study, update.
Yeah. We had said summer to the chief, so I'll just have to circle back with him
Okay.
and see if, like, does summer mean like June or
June,
July,
June,
or
all right.
what does that mean to you?
Okay.
Yeah. But
And then-
I'll try to pin him down.
And then we have also on our future list, nuisance properties and code enforcement, Q4.
But it sounds like you guys would like to hear,
Yeah,
push that up a
We-
little bit.
Especially with the gentleman who keeps coming back every week. I think he's pretty frustrated.
Yeah.
And it would be great to see if, and then if we have any other updates, I know the Waits Motel was an issue, and it would be great to get an update on where we're at on that one, and anything else
That's
that
good. Well, when I
we
was
can
thinking
add
of.
to that
Yeah,
list.
sorry. When I was thinking of abandoned buildings, we're really talking about two types. Sometimes it kind of meshes. One is our commercial space, right? And the other one is our residential spaces. And I'm not sure those are connected sometimes. Sometimes they're
Right.
completely separate. I know there was another committee talking about trying to fill office space. Was that one of your committee?
Parks and
Parks and.
Quality of Life is talking about,
Okay.
but more specifically vacant storefronts in downtown.
Okay,
So I think as, you know, maybe as, and that's more of like mostly with an economic development focus, and then a little bit of the code and restrictions on types of businesses
Right.
and, you know, what's possible. So as it relates more to the
public
public
safety.
safety and enforcement, and, you know, whether it's code enforcement or police enforcement, then this is a good spot for that.
That would be the approach that we
Yeah.
want, the discussions we want on this
Yeah.
subject, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had one more, at some point, I'd like to put traffic calming on the,
Oh, right, we'd started that.
yeah, on the
Get
list.
on the list.
I know, not relative to our biking, our safe biking paths, I know
Oh.
calming devices were more of a sensitive issue with that, but,
I thought that was on the list, but.
We did talk, we talked about it at a committee.
Oh.
I think it was built environment.
right,
No,
But-
we had a briefing here, and they'd gotten a grant.
Yes.
So they're working on that. What the grant is actually a study of the city and where they could use what types of calming. So that's right. So maybe it'll be a while before that comes back.
okay, thanks for that reminder.
Yeah.
It still is a continuing concern of
Yeah.
our residents, so,
And there might be hot spots that we should address before all of this comes out, because it takes forever to get these studies done. So if there are hot spots that we are aware of, maybe we can at least get the sign that, you know, the solar sign that says what your speed
Speed is,
is,
yeah.
and we know you're speeding,
yeah,
you know.
we're showing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything else on, for agenda items for the future?
Those are the ones that were on the top of my head, but-
If I think of any additional ones, I'll email you.
Okay. Do you have anything more from administration?
I don't think so. I have a nice long list
Yeah.
to update and to work on, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you again for all your hard work and the
Yeah.
research in this. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
It's fun to be doing it, so.
Okay, well, at this point, that concludes the Safe Community Council Committee meeting for May 24, 2003. Thank you.